Jaya Aradhamadhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girvaradhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Radhari
Gopi Janavallabha Girvaradhari Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana
Nandana
Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Namunakira Manachari Yamunakira Manachari Amadava Kunja Bihari
Madhava Kunja
Amadava Kunja Bihari
Kunja Bihari
Amadava Kunja Bihari Jai, thank you very much. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pariparajikacharya Satara Sutta Sishima His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki
Jai.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Jai.
Hare Bol. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Pinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachari Shatharine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Hare Krishna. Thank you. Welcome everyone. Today we're looking at chapter 15 from Bhagavad Gita, and the chapter is entitled The Yoga of the Supreme Person. And the verse today is number 6. Cease. Okay. I've got some, for those of you who came a little later, I'm here in the temple room at the ISKCON Montreal Temple. And I hope that there's not too much of an echo for you. Are we okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Yes,
Okay.
Maharaj, it's good.
Fantastic. We're going to look at the verse then. Natat bhasayati suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yagyatva na nivartante tadhama paramang mama. And the translation goes like this: that supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. I'll repeat it once again. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. And here's the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The spiritual world, the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, which is known as Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, is described here. In the spiritual sky, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity, because all the planets are self-luminous. We have only one planet in this universe, the sun, which is self-luminous, but all the planets in the spiritual sky are self-luminous. The shining effulgence of all those planets, called vaikuntas, constitutes the shining sky known as the Brahma Jyoti. Actually, the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna, Goloka Vrindavan. Part of that shining effulgence is covered by the Mahatattva, the material world. Other than this, the major portion of that shining sky is full of spiritual planets, which are called vaikuntas, chief of which is Goloka Vrindavan. As long as the living entity is in this dark material world, he is not in conditional life. But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky, by cutting through the false, perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. Then there is no chance of his coming back here. In his conditional life, the living entity considers himself to be the Lord of this material world. But in the liberated state, he enters into the spiritual kingdom and becomes an associate of the Supreme Lord. There he enjoys eternal bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge. One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who is too much attached to this material world, it is very difficult to cut that attachment. But if he takes to Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually becoming detached. One has to associate himself with devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. One should search out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service. In this way, he can cut off his attachment to the material world. One cannot become detached from the attachment of the material world simply by dressing himself in saffron cloth. He must become attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, one should take it very seriously that devotional service as described in the 12th chapter is the only way to get out of this false representation of the real tree. In chapter 14, the contamination of all kinds of processes by material nature is described. Only devotional service is described as purely transcendental. The words paramang mama are very important here. Actually, every nook and corner is the property of the Supreme Lord. But the spiritual world is paramam, full of 6 opulences. The Katha Upanishad 2:15 also confirms that in the spiritual world, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, or stars. Tatra suryo bhati, the chandra tarakam. For the whole spiritual sky is illuminated by the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. That supreme abode can be achieved only by surrender and by no other means. Okay, thank you very much for listening and following along in that beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada. I think everybody on this call really appreciates the sun and the moon and the effect they have on us. For instance, now we're approaching noontime, and at least where I am, the sun is covered, but the sun is still strong enough that it gives us some light. And isn't it nice when the moon is out, sometimes even the full moon? And boy, do the coyotes and wolves ever go crazy when there's a full moon. And maybe you've had the experience. It's wintertime, there's a snow-covered earth, and the full moon is there, and it reflects on the snow. It's kind of mystical, you know. But we all enjoy these two luminaries, Chandra and Surya, very much. Am I right about that? And in many ways, we're dependent on those of us who, let's say, are quite dependent on a plant-based diet. We look to help from the sun and the moon. The sun gives nutrients. The moon also gives nourishment to the plant life that we eat. How many of you like veggies and how many of you like fruits? I do, yeah. And, you know, with a little bit of water added to them, they come out to, you know, take on their various shapes and forms and smells and textures to create an incredible variety of niceness, especially to the tongue. Yes. Okay, now, we would have a hard time if we didn't have the sun and the moon in our sphere. We're pretty reliant on them. But what the case is here, what Krishna's talking about, is there is a place where you don't need the sun and the moon, and you don't plug in to your electricity anywhere. There's no way to power anything. Everything is self-powered, right? And that is called vaikunta. Kunta means worry or anxiety, and vai means without. So what some people call heaven or nirvana or something, we call it vaikunta. And it's a place where you don't have to have any fears. Yeah, there's no need for psychiatrists in the spiritual world. You know, there is no stress. Mahashucha, Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, there's no stress if you surrender. If you surrender to Krishna's will, and that is the best will to have, then there won't be any anxiety. And when we talk about wills, you know, when you pass away and you've got a will, and people want to know, especially your relatives, how much will is there, and how was my name added to the will? You know, people get kind of greedy and so on like that, right? That's called a will. But Krishna has a will too, and his will is for us to submit to him. That's a different kind of will, and we should will to be with his will. Bhakti means to cooperate with Krishna. That's all it means. It means to cooperate with his will or his desire. And if you plug into Krishna, then you do inherit an amazing world, which is self-luminous. That's the term that Prabhupada uses, self-luminous. It is, you're not dependent on any other planets necessarily. Everything is just, what shall I say, self-contained. That's a good way to put it. self-contained. Everything is, whatever you need, that's what you got. Like we talk about kalpa vriksha, in the spiritual world, there's trees and you can wish from them anything and they'll provide you. If you want mangoes, they'll give you mangoes. If you want bananas, you want apples, oranges, this particular tree will give you whatever you want. They're desire trees. So the whole spiritual world is like that. Things don't need to be shipped in from a big truck or a big cargo cart on the train tracks. Everything is, whatever you want is needed. It's self-sustaining. That's the thing. Okay. Anyways, I might have mentioned to this group before, on one of my last trips to South Africa, I went to Satyagraha, and that is the place where Mahatma Gandhi established a rural community. It was 100 acres, and there's only 4 acres left of the original place. You should see it. The whole area around there is like a kind of like a shanty town, you know, a lot of poor people living all around there. But at the top of the hill of Satyagraha, some of the original buildings were there. They're still there. And I guess you could say it's a tourist attraction, you know? But what he was trying to do was to establish self-sufficiency. And Prabhupada, you know, before he became Prabhupada, his name was Abhicharan De. He was, when he went to school, Scottish Churches College, he was actually a follower of Gandhi. And he always held on to Gandhi's policy of trying to establish self-sufficiency. Like some people might have an issue with Gandhi in terms of his interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita. And also, he had some different philosophical ideas. And then some people might not be happy with Gandhi because during his time it was decided that India would be broken up, chopped up. And to this day, we suffer from that, you know. But we're not going to go there. We're not going to discuss about that side of Gandhi's, you know, doings. But rather, we just want to say Gandhi had a good idea, just like we say Ford had a good idea. And what was Henry Ford? He was actually into mysticism. Yeah, he was very much into mysticism, and he believes strongly in reincarnation. And he's the one that's responsible for setting up the whole automobile empire, you know, like a manufacturing automobiles off an assembly line. I don't believe he invented the automobile. That came from France, as far as I know. But everybody remembers Henry Ford because he developed this system for everyone to have a car. And that was like the American dream. You have a chicken in every pot, and then later on you have, you know, and you have, I think it was everyone should have a TV. I think that was the desire in India at one time during a campaign. Everyone should have a TV in their house, you know. Well, in the early days during the Depression, everyone should have a chicken in their pot on the stove. And so we're just talking about certain needs that people have. But then it came to be that everyone should have a car. Every family should have a car. Now, on the average, whether it's in the West or in the East, in a city like Delhi, there's 3 or 4 cars parked in front of the house. Isn't it? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, you know? So we're controlled by this automobile industry. Yeah, so the automobile is, it is what it is, so we are so dependent on it. But Srila Prabhupada, following the footsteps of Gandhi, was saying, don't be so dependent on this kind of machinery or the industrial revolution. Rather, grow your own food, make your own clothes. It's possible. You can make your clothes from cotton, from wool. I'm sure there's other, you know, threads out there, and grow your own food. I mean, we're in Canada, whether you're in Windsor or Montreal, if you are smart, you can grow food all year round. You know, get your greenhouse going. You can have really nice things, you know, I mean, but we don't invest in those things. We don't believe in that enough. But can you imagine having fresh subsies in the middle of January that you picked out of your greenhouse, which is in your backyard? That would be so nice. Yeah. I know some people have worked in greenhouses. Yeah. So self-sufficiency. In the spiritual world, there's no need, there's no hard labor required for harvesting. Everything is there. All needs are met. And that is the spiritual world. So it might sound dreamy, but we actually have to take to heart the words stated in the Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself. He's describing a world that's different from our world. And he's also saying that once you reach this transcendental world, you don't return to this material world again. And that is a promise that's given by Krishna in several places in the Bhagavad Gita. If you have a Bhagavad Gita with you in your hand, I'd like you to flip over to page or chapter 18. 18, and we're going to go to close to the end, and it's text 68. Okay, this is one of a few verses that explains the situation where if you play your cards right, I'm just giving an example, playing cards, you know, we don't gamble with cards, but you can play cards, pretty innocent game. There's no money attached to it. So Krishna says in text 68, for one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. So this is talking about the destination of somebody who has captured bhakti. And a person who captures bhakti is someone who shares the message of the Gita with other people. You know, if you're that kind of person, you want to give the message of the Gita to others, then you have a good heart, okay? We all know what it's like to just look after yourself. Take care of, you know, when there's some kind of catastrophe, most people go out and help each other. I remember some years back, there was an ice storm here in Quebec, and there were famous photographs taken of all the damage that was done. But people were helping each other, you know. When there's a outage, like electrical outage, people come and just check to see, oh, how about that old couple next door to us or across the street? We check to see if they're okay, because it's the middle of February and there's no heat. Are they okay? And I remember it was in Quebec, we had Jean Chrétien, he was our prime minister, and he put out an orderly there that, you know, you have to, the army's coming in and we're going to take you out of your house and we're going to bring you to a place where you'll be able to keep warm. And anyways, people start to help each other. We had a big storm in Toronto this winter, and I was watching out from the window how people were just helping each other just get out of the snow. It was kind of nice to see, you know, and people were, in those cold times, they share food and they just, you know, offer blankets and help. And we read about how in the prairies during the Depression, people from Nova Scotia were loading up cars of, you know, on the railway line of blankets and clothes for people in the prairies that didn't have anything. So when it comes down to it, everyone more or less believes in karma, in the sense that when you're in trouble, you help your neighbor. Why? Because intuitively, you understand that when I'm in trouble and I need help, someone's going to come, and I hope they will come and lend a helping hand. So I think everyone believes that principle of karma, that, it's going to happen to me one day. I'll be in distress, and others will be there to reach out to help me. So in this way, I think everyone believes in karma somehow, intuitively, or deep down inside. Yeah, so this is the good side of us. So looking back at this verse 68, if you share Krishna with others, then he's especially interested in you. And he said, you'll come back to me. And generally, the rule is, if you go back to his abode, you don't come back here again. That would be so nice, right? Not to come back again. But I have a different position on this. Personally, this is just my own preference. If I had a choice to come back to this world here or go to Vaikunta, I think I'd rather, I don't mind coming back. I'm having such a blast. I'm having a good time here in Prabhupada's mission and Prabhupada's service. It's so good. It's a good life. And I don't have any qualms about coming back to this world. Of course, if I went to the spiritual world, I might get spoiled and I might say, or look down at this material world and spit at it. No, but I don't feel that way right now. And I got some fool here, he's telling me. But the devotee by the name of Maharaj said, I'm not in the material world. Yes, I'm in the material world with plenty of material desires. But really, despite the challenges, when you're a leader in the movement, you have to take in a lot of flack and from people, because it's a people-oriented kind of organization. We're here to serve the public. And the public can be really difficult sometimes. I don't know if you noticed. People can be they get on your nerves. They can crawl under your skin. And you just sometimes want to terrorize them because they're terrorizing you. But, in the end, so what you do is when you have these struggles, you basically find a way out. You kind of wiggle your way through this world and you find a solution to the problems. And then in the end, you kind of rejoice. Yay, we found our way out. I remember there was a few times when this happened when my father passed away. I was in Vancouver. Actually, I heard about his passing when I was in Cleveland, Ohio, and we just finished a program. But shortly thereafter, I had a ticket to go to Vancouver. Okay, so I went to the funeral, and then I went to Vancouver shortly after. And I remember being a little troubled by not having my father on this planet Earth. I wasn't so dependent on him, but I know that he did a lot for me, and so it was on my mind that I was a little bit frustrated. So it was late at night and I went out for a walk through the forest and I got myself a little bit lost. I just kind of didn't watch where I was going so much. And I was in the bushes and the thickets and there was, thorns and, they have a lot of blackberry bushes there and they have thorns. And I got a little stuck in there, so I had to pull myself free from the struggle. But in one sense, I was, my struggle of trying to get through this was parallel to my dealing with my father not being here anymore. And so I eventually got through it and I got out of the bushes, out of the trees and onto a place I could see light again, light from people's homes. And I felt like, okay, I got free from this anguish, this anxiety. I kind of like put it behind me. So that's the game here in this world. You have to kind of struggle and get yourself cut free by not freaking out, we say. If you get stuck somewhere, you get lost. Some people, they just, where am I going? I don't see it. You can easily get extremely frustrated. But if you move through life with a cool head, then you'll find your way through. And just like one time Prabhupada was interviewed by a reporter, and this is in the UK, United Kingdom. And this lady, she had a very short skirt on, and it was a mini skirt. And that was the time when mini skirts were popular. And Prabhupada, for him, it was extraordinary to see somebody with such a short skirt on. And so this lady, this interviewer, she asked Prabhupada lots of questions. And then she asked, why do you shave your head? and so Prabhupada said, well, we shave our head. It is to keep it cool. Better to have a cool head than to have cool legs. And he points at her legs, and she kind of gets a little embarrassed. So it's good to have a cool head. I mean, I had a discussion with some devotees the other day, and they are from, they have been living in Australia during the COVID, and it's been very hot. They're entering into their winter now. We're coming into our spring, right? And they say, we both concluded one thing. We said, it's better you can function better when the atmosphere is cool. So I'm putting a plug in for Canadian weather for all of you folks out there. Better to have sort of like a cool atmosphere than to have a hot atmosphere. Have you ever been with those sultry hot days in winter? It was so muggy and hot, and you just feel like melting into the Detroit River, something like that. And the way to get close to Krishna is to operate in a cool manner. Keep your equilibrium together. Just like a nice example is given, many rivers dump their water into the ocean, but the ocean just keeps even keeled. It stays at one level. It doesn't necessarily rise. The only time we hear about waters rising and when we have a big concern is when the ice caps are melting on the north and south poles, But in general, water coming from the rivers dump into the vast ocean, and the ocean just keeps, on one particular level. And this is an analogous to our desires. Desires come through us, and these desires, even though they come through, for a person who has a cool head, as a yogi, will not be disturbed by these incessant desires. So it's like the rivers that dump water into the ocean. Just keep on one level and do not be so disturbed. Don't get infiltrated with desire. Desires come, but you don't take them seriously. Just like when you're walking on the sidewalk and the traffic is passing by, you don't really pay attention to it. I mean, automobiles are pretty boring anyways to look at. To me, trees are a lot more fun to look at, but cars, nothing specific, unless if it's like an old model coming from Henry Ford's, museum. You get those old cars, they're like coaches, like they look so far out, And otherwise, it doesn't catch my fancy at all. I just, I hear the engine, just let them just fly by. I do recall I was when I walked across America, I was in Ohio, and in some parts of Ohio, they have the Amish people. They have the buggies and the horses. And I was just walking along chanting Japa Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And then I heard, and then I looked to my side, to my left, and then there was this like black coach, pulled by a black horse, and it was steered by a man in black, and inside the coach was a lady in black. So everything was black, but it was beautiful. It was beautiful, and I thought, and as they went by, the driver gave a little nod, and the lady, the passenger side, also gave a nod, and I gave a nod back. I just thought, wow, this is cool. Not a red sports car. Driving. So then that's when I noticed automobiles, when they're not automobiles, but horse-drawn. So everything people have different fancies for different things, and I think everybody really appreciates the sun. To me, this was not a bad winter because we had lots of sun. I don't know if in Windsor whether you've had it or not, but definitely in Toronto, probably in Montreal here too. There's lots of sun. Temperatures were maybe a little bit lower than usual. Lots of snow and sun, so it was bright. It was when the day is bright, then there's light, and you feel optimism. But if it's gray and dark and overcast day after day after day, it's very depressing. It's very depressing. You feel like you do want to all the shrink. So anyways, how do we keep happy? How do we keep lively and just engage in full devotional service? Tried to one young man who's on this call, I said, Prabhu, what you have to do is don't overthink. Think less, do more. So that do more means engage in bhakti. Do lots of service. Keep busy. When we're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're clearly asking Krishna, can you please engage me in some devotional service? So when the service comes, we say, why are you interfering with my life? If somebody's offering you some seva, we should heartily accept, embrace it, and go for it. Devotional service comes in 9 different shapes and forms. Ashravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Parasevanam, Arichanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyamatmani, Vedanam. I have somebody sitting next to me, and he's a musician, and he's got a great voice, and he plays on the keyboard. No, I'm not going to ask you. His name is Mahajan. And he put together some albums, like CDs, and he called them, you went through all the 9, didn't you? No. Not yet. He's working on it. We're work in progress. So you did Shravanam, right? And Kirtanam. He did a few out of the 9. He's working on it. Give him a chance. I think he's a decent looking person. I think we should allow him the time. What do you think? I've known Mahajan here for a long time, and first time I saw him was in the 70s, and he was a super good-looking man. Now I don't know anymore. He's older now, but we all will get older, and just that's the way of the world, right? That's the way of the world. So just looking at this, there's not a lot of details in the verse that we're looking at today, 16:5. We're just looking at a little description, getting a little hint of the spiritual world, and that it doesn't need other outside sources to keep alive. It's self-sustaining, and so that means it has a lot going for it. And so I think that we can appreciate that is what is the spiritual world. Krishna's giving us an idea that it's a place of bliss, place of ananda, and that's what everybody's always looking for. Anandamayo yasat. Everyone's looking for pleasure, and people just keep going after they're finished with trying some enjoyment, and then it runs out. Like Prahlad Maharaj says, chewing the already chewed. Now when I went to school, we had wooden desks, and we had a whole, is it possible to not talk during the class? So I'll just be a few more minutes. And in the wooden desk, there was a hole for an inkwell, and so you would have your ink there. By the time I went to school, they didn't use them too much, but the desks were strong. Now, the unique thing about the desk was the manufacturers put together really strong desks. There was no problem. But usually what you found out is that if you put your hand under the desk, there would be some chewing gum. Is that right? Like juicy fruit, you know? And you would feel it and you, ooh, yucky, you know? And it was there maybe for a few years. You wouldn't take that chewing gum and put it back in because probably all the sugar was out of it. It was probably one of the worst inventions ever. You know, city cleaners, they try to get, you know, there's chewing gum all over the streets and pretty hard to take it off. You know, it's like a super bad invention. But so Prahlad Maharaj talks about chewing the already chewed. Why do you want to go back to enjoy that which you didn't really enjoy? Why do you want to revisit that which posed itself to be offering enjoyment, but didn't really give you much satisfaction, right? Why go back to that? So like old dried up chewing gum. You know, there's no point in it. And so that's what it's like in the material world. We're just constantly endeavoring to enjoy that which has a short shelf life. Hare Krishna, is it possible? I'll just be another 10 minutes. Okay, because it's scary, it's distracting. I won't be too long. So this is what it means to be in the material world. Don't get excited about anything that is offered here as objects for sense gratification. Don't get too enamored by it. It's not worth it, you know. Better to learn detachment. And as Prabhupada explains in the purport here so nicely, that detachment from the material world comes from attachment to service to Krishna. Just get yourself busy, so occupied in Krishna service that you don't have room for anything else. There's no room for Maya. You know, if I take, you know, let's say one of those tumblers and fill it full of, you know, pure milk coming from Gir cows from India, you know, the best, with a lot of butter fat, and I fill it to the brim. It's so filled up that there's not even room for it. Let's go back to the ink example. If you put ink in there, a drop of water, it'll spill over. So that's how full should be our day with devotional service, with Krishna consciousness. No room for Maya to come in. You know, there's no crack in the door open so that she could put her lotus toe in there and then force her way in, you know. Make sure the door is closed and all the locks are, you know, well secured so that Maya cannot come in, which is what we all do in Canada in the wintertime. We close all the windows, slide the windows closed, and we do all the doors and any cracks. You try to stuff something under the door if anything's leaking through. So don't make any room for Maya. And the way that can be accomplished is by just keeping busy in devotional service. Keep yourself busy, and then you won't be a mental case. If you keep yourself, you know, open, you know, just thinking and thinking and thinking, then Maya will come and, here's a sitting duck. I'm going to go after that individual. Yeah. So anyways, we're going to leave some of the period for your questions now. We're getting close to like 10 minutes left of this verse. And, you know, from chapter 16, talking about the spiritual world. And really, you know, what we're supposed to be working at is trying to cultivate the spiritual world here, you know. That's called a Jiva Mukta Suchite. Jiva Mukta, liberated soul, is one who kind of like makes the environment spiritual, you know. One who is not attached to things, can always sees that everything is spiritual. Everything is Krishna's domain. And that's what we want. So you don't really have to go to the spiritual world, but you can cultivate a spirituality in this world while you're in this body. Hare Krishna. So we'll leave the rest of the period for your questions, and I'll ask Kadamba Kanana if he wants to pose it to anybody, and if there's no one, no one has any thought, then
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
he'll give you a mean look or something like that. Okay, which I don't think it's possible for him to do. I don't think. I knowing him, so I only know you through the Zoom. We're Zoom friends. I've never even seen you before.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Maharaj, thank you so much, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Maharaj, Dr. Rajan has a question.
Thank you, Maharaj. As usual, it's one of the enlightening lectures. I like two things from your lecture today. One is, if you fill with good things, such as devotional service, there's no room for any negative things. And I like that one because we use it in our work. Second one I really liked was, at the beginning you said, even if you end up in a spiritual world, you don't mind coming back to help us, poor souls. I loved you even more. I always loved you for saying this. I said, but the problem is they won't let you come back. I think they will love you there too.
Oh, God. Well, thank you for that kind remark. That's true. But sometimes Krishna wants people to come back to help conditioned souls, right? So sometimes that is part of his mandate. I think I need some help. I mean, Krishna is, as Chaitanya, he acts like a gardener, and he said, I have so many fruits that I have to pick. It's called the fruits are Krishna Prema, love of God. We're to take it symbolically, right? And for me to harvest all this fruit, I can't do it by myself. I need some help. We got to hire some helpers. So, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he brings his associates to help spread and share this Krishna bhakti and give it to the world. Yeah. So, anyways, if Krishna wants you to come back to this world, he singles you out. I want you. You come with me. Well, as long as I'm going with you, I'm okay. Don't send me out there in this world alone. So what's beautiful about Prabhupada's ISKCON is that he has given a world which is full of the features of vaikunta. And of course, if you want to find fault, you can do it. It's not a problem. It doesn't take any talent to find fault with the institution or with people who are serving. It's not, you're not anybody special to find fault. But in fact, you're much more of a hero to just pull out all the good that you see in everybody. That we need more of that kind of thing. Definitely. Thank you, Ashok. Does anybody else have any questions? Even anybody in this room here, if they like to, my dear friend Mahajan, if you have anything you want to say, or anything at all, or we have Kritamala way over at the other end, and Mataji over there. Great. Any questions? Or anybody else out there in Windsor?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Maharaj, thank you so much. Maharaj, there is one more question. Actually, my sister has joined from India. She's joined from Chennai. She has a question, but she's not very fluent in English. She will say it in Tamil. I will translate it. Is that okay?
Yeah, no problem. No problem. What is her name?
Her name is Neelambari Ishwari Devidasi. Yeah, you may proceed. Akka?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Guru Maharaj. Dandavat Pranam. இப்போ நம்மள நித்தியமான உலகுக்கு மாத்திக்கணும் அப்படின்னா இந்த ஜட உலக பட்டத்துல இருந்து முற்றிலுமா அந்த பொய்யான மர பிம்பத்தை வந்து வேரோட வெட்டி வீழ்த்தினாதான் நம்மளால அந்த நித்திய உலக அடைய முடியும் அப்படின்றத வந்து நம்மளுக்கு புரியுது. அப்ப நம்ம எல்லாம் கிரகஸ்தா லைஃப்ல இருக்கோம்.
One second, Akka. I will just translate whatever you have said first, and then I will let you talk again. Maharaj,
Ah.
first part she is saying, Maharaj, it is mentioned we have to completely uproot from here and our desires and all the material things here to go back to spiritual. And for those who are in grahastha life, in married life, and she's going to say the question now. Go ahead, Akka.
அப்படி நம்மள அந்த லைஃப்ல இருந்துகிட்டு நம்மளால அத வேரோட வெட்டி வீழ்த்த முடியுமா? அது
Maharaj,
சாத்தியமா?
yes, in married life, especially, is it really possible to uproot all our material desires or uproot our material things to go back to spiritual world? Is it really possible?
Yes, it is possible. One nice thing about grahastha life is that you're living with someone or some buddies, some other people where you're learning how to serve each other all the time. So you can't get away from it, in order to survive. You need help from others, so it's a lot of sacrifice, so it's definitely a stepping stone for pure devotional service. And yeah, in grahastha life, we have a lot of attachments, but as we get a little older, we see, I don't know if I need all of these things so much as I used to. There was a time when I would grab for everything and I would acquiesce. I would accumulate so many things. But yeah, the system, the Vedic system is that first you learn from the Guru. Secondly, you are, second stage, you're grihastha. You have a grija, you have a house, you have a plot of land, right? And then after some time, you make good use of that facility. You get a little older, and just your ambitions aren't as strong. So then you look forward to the day when you can have less, give things away, downsize, and then come to the stage where you might just want to live real simple. It comes kind of natural. Your passions are so strong. Hormones are not exploding inside of you. Like when we're in puberty and then you're a young person, you just go, well, oh, what is this? What are these explosions? And yeah, so that all diminishes in time. So the main thing is to keep up your service to Krishna. Center your life around God. That's the most important thing, because despite all the challenges that come with grahastha life, if you just have Krishna as your focal point, then you've always got something to rely on, and that is Krishna, and he'll always be there to give ease to your passions. Hare Krishna. Kadambakadana, are you going to translate that quickly?
Maharaj, I will. Okay, Maharaj.
Oh, you can do it after.
Yes, Maharaj, I will do it after Maharaj. I'll
Okay.
come and let her know.
Good. So we have like 3 minutes left. Is there anybody else who'd like to tell us about their takeaway? Was there anything? Did you like the chewing gum analogy? Did you like that? And I think I saw so many smiles. Oh yeah, I went to a school like that where the chewing gum was underneath the desk. Is that? I'm not alone on this. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Maharaj. Maharaj, I think Hemanga Gopi has a reflection. Do you want to share, Hemanga Gopi?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry,
Is this
Maharaj.
the Hemanga Gopi that I know? Yes, go ahead.
My husband actually got the question wrong from his sister. So she was emphasizing more on the relationship aspect in Grihastha ashram and not just the material things to give up. So her question was more about the relationship with the kids, with the family, how to cut those relationships to go to Krishna. How do we do that? Because it's wrong.
I think we can take the best example of this is Kunti. She was the mother of 5 gorgeous, famous sons, the Pandavas, right? And in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, she's expressing her devotions to Krishna and admitting that I have 5 wonderful boys And I know I have to cut myself loose at some point in time. And I simply have to give my attention to you. And her prayer is beautiful in the first canto, where she's talking about, may my attention go to you, to your lotus feet, just like the Ganges water flows, even though it's got snakes around, the Ganga moves all over the place, but eventually it gets to the ocean. So in the same way, we already talked about the ocean and rivers, right? So she's saying, may my mind be like the Ganga, even though it tends to steer in different directions and waver. Ultimately, the waters flow into the ocean. So may my attraction be drawn to you without being diverted by anything else. So she's a good example. She did it, and she had good sons, good kids they were, and some people to be proud of, but she learned the art of just kind of letting go. The boys are being looked after. I don't have to worry about them anymore. So this was her sentiment. My dear Krishna, my attention is to you, not to anything else. Hare Krishna. So now they're having an arti here, and I guess I can ask someone to hold my phone over to the deities, so you can get darshan of the deities here. And one day we'll have a real nice temple in Windsor, won't we? I need a resounding yes.
Yes. Thank you, Maharaj.
I'll show you. Okay, I'll show you the deities.
Jai.
Can you see? So first of all, we have Gaura Nitai, and these deities are made from neem wood.
Hari Hari.
Aren't they beautiful?
Yes, Maharaj, they're very beautiful.
And they also have brass deities of Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta.
Jai.
And then we're going to go to Radha Krishna. They are perhaps the biggest Radha Krishna deities in North America. This is Shishi Radha Manohara. And do you notice the cows on either side? You can go ahead, bro. Here's our Pujari.
Yes, Maharaj.
He
Yes,
just
Maharaj.
passed by. Yeah. And so she's
It's
beautiful.
so beautiful.
Shishi Radha Madan Gopal, the small ones. And then we also have Jagannath, a set of Jagannath deities. And so this Jagannath is in the middle, at the back, beautiful and black. And that's what the altar looks like. I'll show you the Vyasasan for Prabhupada here.
Wow.
Pretty fancy, eh? This was,
Yes, Maharaj, so beautiful.
Vyasasan was made in the 70s.
Wow.
Yeah. And then this is Kritamala. She's my dear friend. She's from Croatia originally.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Bosnia.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna.
And she's
Our
a very
obeisances.
very good baker. She makes great bread and pizza as well. Okay.
Thank you so much.
And now we have Mahajan. He's playing Mridanga, and he teased me earlier on and said, "You're not going to get me to sing," but he's doing it anyways. So thank you.
Maharaj, we're very grateful.
We'll see you then next month
Yes,
for
Maharaj.
more bhakti, right?
Yes, Maharaj, next month.
Let me know when I can come and see you personally, because now all the restrictions are being relieved.
Yes, Maharaj, we will.
We'll do it one day, okay? I know I've
Yes,
been
Maharaj.
pestering you. I've been pestering you, the Kadamakanana Prabhu. Please forgive me for being a pest. But, you know.
Maharaj, please. Maharaj, we are actually eagerly looking forward to have your association.
Okay.
We want your presence in Windsor soon.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Very grateful
Everyone.
for giving us. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you all so much for joining. Maharaj gave us, after the class, he gave us a tour of ISKCON Montreal Temple. Montreal, as you all know, is in Quebec. It's one of the big temples. So beautiful deities. So we look forward to have Maharaj Association soon in Windsor. Hopefully, when they remove all the restrictions, we can bring Maharaj to Windsor. So once again, thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Just a quick question.
Yes. Go ahead.
I know the restrictions will go away and we can meet in person, but I still like this Zoom also. It's so convenient from home. maybe we can still continue Zoom also. This is better for me then.
We will anyway, because our Srimad Bhagavatam reading, we will continue on Zoom.
Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita, maybe we can proceed forward with in person. But Bhagavatam is everyday reading, right? So we have to have Zoom.
Yeah. Zoom is way better still. Okay.
You understand? Yes, we will continue. Yes. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Gita Mataji.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.